Welcome to Labor's View. This show is brought to you by the very hardworking, dedicated employees of the Essex County Division of Welfare, who are the members of CWA, Communication Workers of America, Local 1081. I'm David Weiner, President of the Union and host of this show, Labor's View. Tonight we've reprised a lovely location, which is my basement of my luxurious home, as you can tell by my surroundings. And we did so for expediency, and so we'll proceed. It also is indicative of my high standard of living. And that's facetious for my critics. What I'm going to do tonight, again, is, I do this once in a while, is describe events that are important to our local as of late. And late meaning this is May of 2012. And show you how not only are they applicable to our members, but in many instances applicable to you and to your families. The first issue I have for our membership meeting, which is coming up next week on the 31st of May, is the fact that our union, along with several other unions, was able to help defeat the incumbent mayor of Orange, Eldridge Hawkins Jr. This is a mayor who held 3 or 4 jobs with the township, with his town, and who was also very publicly testified in favor of the civil service and the pension and health benefit reforms that 2 of which have gone through. 1, the pension reform, public employees had their pensions increased, and 2, health benefits, which is costing our members all public employees, an incredible amount of money out of their pay. And Mr. Hawkins also very publicly supported having all local governments, such as cities and counties, pull out of civil service if they wanted to, which means he or his counterparts could appoint anybody they want or fire anybody they want virtually with impunity. So Mr. Hawkins now has to find 1 or more jobs to take the place of the 3 or 4 that he soon will not any longer have. And we thank our members and the members of the other unions who helped us in that regard. I spoke of the health benefits increases. Prior to last July, our members at least, and most public employees, were paying 1%, 1.5% of their actual respective salaries for the cost of their employers' health benefits. So in other words, the County of Essex, let's say, was paying $25,000 a year for an employee and their family. That's a little high end, but let's say that's what they were paying. An employee was paying 1.5% of their salary to cover that. The legislation that we maintain was illegally passed by an unholy alliance of Republican legislators combined with Democratic legislators from Essex, primarily Essex County, and from down in South Jersey. They got together and made it so it's a percentage of the actual cost of the health benefits to the employer. So that $30,000 now, we have employees that will be paying 15% up to 20% of the actual cost. So if it's a $25,000 cost to the county, for example, you can see the type of increase that's going to be anywhere in the realm of up to $6,000, $7,000. And it just doesn't end there. That's a $6,000 or $7,000 decrease in the salary of the employee who's not making that much money to begin with. What also happens is each year, the health care provider, in this case it's Aetna for the County of Essex, they increase the premiums, the cost to the county. This year, in 2012, it was about 11.5%. So on top of paying the county's actual cost, which was a static number, let's say, had it been from last year to this year, that number goes up an additional 11.5, 12%. So you're really bleeding these people, and it doesn't stop for another 2 years until 2014, and at which time the legislation says that the unions may only negotiate either sideways with the employer, meaning no increase, or increase, but you can't negotiate to lessen the cost no matter how much that cost increases. That law has got to be changed. When I spoke to my friend Joe D., the county executive, about this in a casual conversation in the basement of the Hall of Records a few weeks ago, Joe was actually of the belief that we could negotiate downwards until I told him otherwise. And I don't say that to make fun of Joe. I'm saying that there are key legislators and their supporters, so to speak, their sponsors, who actually don't even know how bad the law is that they had passed. A big move for us, and on many of these shows in the past, we've talked about the working conditions and how bad they can be in the Division of Welfare. And we have a facility that the county owns in East Orange, known as 50 South Clinton Street in East Orange, by 280 to the 280 highway. And it's been so packed in there that people have stood in line going all the way down blocks and blocks, sometimes in the snow and the rain, because that's how packed, how many people they have coming. Some 3,000 people per week enter this building, which is not that great a building to begin with. It has a lot of safety issues as far as we're concerned. Finally, the county is supposed to be doing a good thing, which, and they do some good things. They're going to move the general assistance clients for both Newark and Irvington. Those are single people receiving public assistance. They're supposed to end food stamps. They're supposed to move them out of 50 South Clinton Street. The last word is they're going to move them into 18 Rector Street, Newark, which is a privately owned building where 90+% of the Division of Welfare is located currently. We have like 5, 6 field offices already in there. This is right across the street from the YMCA in Newark, and our building actually touches, is contiguous to the Performing Arts Center. Well, my concern is that when you put thousands, and we're talking 10,000 individuals, can visit the office who receive GA, General Assistance, from Newark and that live in Newark and Irvington, when they're visiting that one building right there in the heart of downtown Newark, and you have a generally single male population mingling in with a mixed population of women and children, that might lead to some issues, especially in terms of security issues. So we're keeping an eye on that, and we're hoping the county does its due diligence, and that when they move this population, they provide not only for the TANF population, which is families with welfare, but for the GA as well, because many of them are very, very vulnerable population, or they wouldn't be on general assistance, which is only $100 and something per month that they live on. Now, part of the problems that we have in the Division of Welfare, a big part, and we've discussed this, has to do with staffing, or lack of staffing. The county cut a deal, and this gets complicated, but the county cut a deal back around 1996, 1997 with the state of New Jersey. The governor then was Governor Christie Whitman, another Republican. And what happens, the county executive, a Republican at the time, Jim Treffinger, in order not to increase taxes with his no increase taxes, which he was so proud of, one way they did it was the state had this, it's almost like a Ponzi scheme or a leaseback program. What the state did is, okay, this year, let's say 96, we're going to give you $6.5 million in monies, in advance monies that we would have given you anyway. The vast majority of which are federal funds, by the way, for TANF. Those are temporary assistance for families, needy families, TANF. That's families with welfare. We're going to give you this money, and which is your money for staffing and benefits. And instead of using that money for staffing and benefits for the staffing, we're going to allow you, Mr. Treffinger, to put that money into your general treasury so you can artificially keep enough that you don't have to raise taxes. Well, not only did they do that in 1996, but they did it again in 1997 with about $8.5, I believe, million. So a total of $15 million that should have been spent on servicing the needs of the poorest citizens, and not just the poorest citizens. We're also talking about people that are on Medicare, Medicaid, senior citizens, mentally ill that are in boarding homes, populations that normally you don't think of being serviced by the Division of Welfare. This money was diverted and put into the general treasury. At the time, I challenged the then county administrator, Vincent DeMoro, publicly at a field board meeting and said, you cannot steal this money from the Division of Welfare. And he says, no, I have the transcript this thick of the meeting. We're going to put this money, we're going to repay it from the Treasury. Well, here it is, Jerry, how many years is that?
16.
16 years later. And each year, from past, ever since then, they go through this charade, the state and the county. The state, each January, loans the county $15 million, the same $15 million that they allowed to be stolen and put in the general treasury. They loan us $15 million with the proviso that the Division of Welfare maintain at least 822 total staff, which we've very rarely, if ever, retained. And that's staffing based on 1996, 1997 client levels, which were reduced incredibly because those are the years they passed the Personal Responsibility Act, which threw a lot of people off of welfare because they put time limitations. But since then, since 2008, with the crash, which led us almost into a Great Depression, the number of clients, welfare clients, has gone through the roof, and we're still stuck at the same levels, if we even reach them, that were struck in this unholy deal that was made between Whitman and Treffinger back in 1996, 1997, with the blessing of the then Freeholder Board, which included now County Executive Joseph DiVincenzo. So, as a result of all these I call them maniacal machinations, what happens? We don't have enough people to do the job. So the state of New Jersey, Department of Human Services, comes out with a mini report and says to the County of Essex, listen, you're not doing the job. And we're very concerned about this. People aren't being served. Here's what the state says. Staffing levels below the budgeted level. What I just tell you. Referrals from TANF, families with welfare, from the vendors, that's the people who provide products, for failure to comply with recommendations and also that they're not timely. GA, those are the single people. GA recipients subject to a work requirement are not consistently receiving to-work case management services. Don't have the people to do it. Current issuance procedures and processes are inadequate for the volume of cases applying and reapplying for benefits. Once again, the $15 million comes back to haunt us. Latency and response issues related to the computer network. Paper document files for the GA, single welfare clients, that are missing or incomplete. Recertifications. Every 6 months, generally, a client has to be recertified as to their circumstances. That's not being done in a timely fashion. Emergency assistance plans are not being developed as necessary. On and on and on and on. So what does the county decide to do? Well, the county decides we're going to spend $75,000 and hire a consultant to do a 90-day study of what is wrong with the Division of Welfare and how to correct it. And the company they chose, after apparently putting it out to bid, is Janus Solutions. And Janus Solutions is owned by a gentleman who used to be the head of DIFAS under, I believe it was Governor Whitman. I might be wrong. Maybe it was Governor Kane. And this gentleman, his company's been used, Janus, for welfare to work issues, consulting to the county on social issues for many years. Very competent company. So in the proposal that Janus made and the contract that's been struck with them, they're to examine the areas of deficiencies reported by the state of New Jersey and report outlining recommendations for remediation to correct them. They're also saying they're going to have a committee, a steering committee, a small one, Janus will have, that is going to oversee the consultation. And inasmuch as the committee would represent the various organizational areas that represent the Division of Welfare staff members, I said, we should be our local, we should be on the committee. I'm on the Workforce Investment Board, I'm on the One Stop Committee, both of which Joe D. keeps reappointing me. Even though I'm a pain in the behind, he knows I do it in a constructive vein. I don't do it from political gain. So luckily, Mr. Ralph Ciella, the administrator for the County of Essex, has acceded, and I will be on that committee. Now, also overseeing the work of the administration, because keep in mind, the County of Essex is legislative and executive. The county executive is the executive branch, and the legislative consists of the freeholders. Well, the freeholders are supposed to oversee the work of the administration. That's what they're there for. And part of their job, I've discussed this before, but it comes into play here, is to, each year they approve 13 different committees, freeholder boards, subcommittees. And these committees, comprised of different variations of the 9 freeholders, they're supposed to meet regularly, and they're supposed to issue a report, each one, the next year. The kind of committees they have: Public Safety, Penal Committee, that's for the jail. Work First New Jersey, that's to get people to work. The Zoo, Turtleback Zoo Committee, I'll get back to that. Resource Recovery, that's where they burn the garbage. Recreation Oversight, that's the parks. Purchasing, Mosquito Control, Land Use, Labor Union Oversight over the unions. Hospital Center, the mental hospital for the county. Health Care, Health Benefits Committee, and I just alluded to that before about how much they're costing. And a committee to review and investigate the Essex County Utilities Committee. Oh, there's a couple more. Actually, there's 18. Economic Development Committee, the Improvement Authority Committee, Deer Population Control Committee, the County Code Committee, and Affirmative Action. Okay? So these 18 subcommittees of the Freeholder Board, they're supposed to meet. There's a resolution they pass for each one, meaning they're required to meet. They pass the resolutions themselves in January of each year. And they're supposed to make a report by January the next year of what happened with the committee meetings the prior year. So we decided to do an OPRA request, Open Public Records Act. We do a lot of them, to the county. And we said, okay, we'd like to see the reports that the freeholders issued between 2006 and 2009. That's 4 years. We finally got the materials. There wasn't one report. Maybe one committee met, and there wasn't one report for 4 years of the legislature, which is supposed to be overseeing what the administration is doing. So then we said, okay, in 2011, we asked to see 2010. We got that. Now they're issuing reports, but most of them don't meet. What they do is they just issue the resolution from the prior year as their report. What they were supposed to have done, that's what they issue. Again, I'm not putting down all the freeholders. They have a very tough job. Are they in lockstep with the administration? Obviously. But they have a lot of pressures on an invisible government that most people don't even know what county government does. That's a shame, because it does a lot. One of these committees that should be really working is the Zoo Committee, okay, which includes my friend freeholder Pat Seabolt, who's also on the Open Space Trust Fund. That's a 1.5% tax that is placed on all properties in Essex to help pay for supposedly open space. That's why it's an Open Space Trust Fund. But what this administration under the county executive has done is take primarily, lately they're taking the bonding for it, but Green Acres money from the state and combining that with money appropriated through the Open Space Trust Fund and building zoo exhibits, amongst other things. The most recent, I think, was a sea lion exhibit. Well, Channel Fox 5 News called me weeks and weeks ago and said, did I have any information on this? Because they'd come across my name. They had done some Open Public Records Act responses, and they said they were getting trouble getting responses. I don't know how they would, because I don't. And the guy who does it is Al Fusco, is excellent for the County of Essex. I've never had a problem with it. But I gave them all the stuff I've written over the years. I gave them the statistics. I gave them the press releases from the administration. And with that, they did a piece that aired on, I believe, May 15th. It's on our union's website, which Jerry should be putting up as a graphic. If you go there, it's part of the actual, there's a commercial before for the cars, and I'm not saying I'm in favor of that because it's a foreign car, but it goes into the piece, which was, I think, a very well done piece. And didn't make Joe D too happy, but it was a very well done piece. And what it shows is that the county has spent I don't know how to exactly add it up, but it looks to be around $40 to $50 million in the last 10 years under Joe's leadership to create these exhibits, plus a 9-hole miniature golf course, plus a brand new restaurant, Tim McClune's, one of his restaurants. And I called it really, like in the interview, I think of Olympic Park because that's what I used to go to when I was a kid. Some of you old folks would remember that. But it's an amusement park setting. And the problem is not that this facility exists, that there are children and adults and others who like to go to the zoo, and there's adults that go to the restaurant. I don't know who plays miniature golf, but there are people that do that too, I guess. But the problem is all the social service stuff I spoke of earlier, it's been neglected. No one has paid attention virtually to all these issues. Hence, you get this report from the state saying you've got all these problems. It's because all of the almost all the human resources, go to the county's website and look at the press releases, or look at the Freeholder Board website and look at their agenda, or agenda. And you'll see the vast majority, I don't know, put a percentage on it. I'll put one on it. I made it up. 75% of the functions and the focus of this administration and the freeholders has gone to issues of the parks, the zoo, and the golf courses. And virtually none of it has gone, hence, and without any legislative oversight, virtually none of it has gone towards social services. Essex County, by Joe D's own admission in the piece that I urge you to go see on our website, the Channel 5 piece, he actually says, while he was running for office 10 years ago, of course he was freeholder before that for, 13 years, and Field Board president for about 8 of them. But he says that when he was running, Essex County had the highest tax rate, the highest foreclosure rate, the highest poverty rate, and he says, guess what? They still do. And I'm going, Joe, what are you trying to prove? That while you spend all this time and money and energy, and it's not just the monies I talked about, the millions of dollars, it's every time there's a press conference, you take directors and department directors of things that have nothing to do with the parks or the zoo or the golf courses, and they have to stand there as backdrop at prices of $100,000 a piece for salaries, and at least once a week, it seems like, there are human backdrops to these press conferences. And I'm not making it up. Look at the county website, and you see the press releases. Joe D announces the zoo thing and this and the ecosystem thing, all very nice, great stuff. And I'll tell you this, that wasn't in the interview. Joe DiVincenzo is the best project manager, and I've been looking at county government now as president of this local for 32 years. I've seen every county executive from Peter Shapiro all the way through to Joe D. 2 of the other ones went to jail, but that's a different story. I've seen them all. And no one could get things done in a timely fashion, in a budgetary fashion, the way Joe DiVincenzo. It's a skill that is amazing. Now, part of it is I hear he's an ogre, and he really busts chops. But besides that, he gets the job done. So I'm not taking anything away from the quality. Sometimes the quality gets a little too far. Like the signs they make, I've reported on this before, the signs that you see at these various facilities are made of woods like mahogany, and the signs themselves are painted with platinum, gold, and silver paint. Somehow I don't think when you have so much unemployment in Essex County, and not just in the eastern section, I'm talking about the western section as well, and north and south, so much unemployment, so many foreclosed houses, so many people in poverty. The Association for Children, they changed their names, but that's how I remember them. They just came out with a report about childhood poverty. It's gone up 600,000 in the state of New Jersey, and you know a great number of them, the majority of them, are going to be in Essex County because of the urban areas that we have and some of the suburban areas. So it's not the fault the county executive on his heart, and that he loves these projects and they're good and he believes they'll bring in revenue. It's to say you've got to, and I've said this to Joe D in these interviews, you got to walk and chew gum at the same time. And he was a football player. He was I think, semi-pro. He can do that. I know he can do that, but he's got to take the time to try. Social services they're very difficult. No one wants to very few want to try to wrap their arms around the problem of social services. It goes back hundreds of years in this country alone. But you cannot give up and not do that while you have the kind of problems that are ensuing every single day. The school systems that are failing so many children, the crime that is plaguing so many communities, and not just the urban communities. So these are the things that concern our members, both directly and indirectly. And when I say we try to get the job done, I just had to write a grievance. We finally got new computers in from the state. It's been 15 years. And you imagine what a computer looks like from 15 years ago. Finally got new computers and new printers. There's no ink for the cartridges. They don't have any replacement ink. There's no paper to print. The job is intensive on both using the computers and printing out things for receipts for clients, for landlords, for vendors. It's just incredible that the deficiencies exist when you have, and it's not that incredible because you don't have the focus that should be made. And we have our members. We have more and more. I just told my producer Jerry, we have in the break, not your break, our break, we took a break, that we have more members going to our counseling company. It's not ours. We pay a fee to them. It's a nonprofit, United Labor Agency in Newark, going because of the stresses from the work site, because they have so many clients and too few co-workers to take up the slack, so many demands, and at the same time, you're going from paying $800 a year to co-pay for your health insurance to $6,000, $7,000 with no end in sight. That's not fair. That is not the way that you keep quality people in a job, even in this economy where there are so few jobs. Give you another example. We actually ran out of case numbers for the clients. Okay? Each client's case gets numbered. I'm trying to remember what they told me. I think it was, I may be underestimating. I thought it was like 150, maybe it was 500,000, whatever, because it's been many decades and decades. But the Division of Welfare actually ran out of numbers and needed to get permission from the state to pick up a new series of numbers for the case records. We go and we speak to management, and in all fairness to our director, Yvonne Davis, and her managerial underlings, they have it rough too because they got to work within a budget that is set by the county executive and the freeholder board. So they do the best of what they can do, but there are things that could be made better. So what we ask you to do, that watch this show, is to call the county executive's office, to call your freeholders, the ones that serve at large, the ones that serve your particular district, and say to them, what are you doing? Why aren't you having committee reports, freeholders? Why aren't you issuing committee meetings? Why aren't you issuing reports and watching what the administration does? And Mr. DiVincenzo, as good as you are at so many things that you do, why aren't you focusing on the entirety of the needs of the county and not just upon a zoo and a golf course and all these other, what I referred to in the interview as frivolities? So we thank you for joining us on Labor's View. I'm David Weiner. We hope to see you in future shows. And keep watching and give us any feedback you'd like. We appreciate it. Good night.
One that can speak for me. I have a say in my own destiny. Here on the job, no, it is not hard to